All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. It is 7:32 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge for February 14, 2024. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council Chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last four digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. With that, I'll ask Ms. Steinle to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Here.
Mr. Caslin?
Here.
Ms. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer is excused tonight. Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Kanigo?
Here.
Councilman Glass?
Here.
Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
And Mr. Bastide is excused tonight.
Okay, and we have Mr. Costa and Mr. Depkin.
Yes.
As well.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, first order of business, I'll turn the virtual floor over to Mr. Mayor to swear in Mr. Kanigo.
Thank you, Mr. Caslin. Ed, if I'm not mistaken, it is a class 4-1 member, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, we are so glad to welcome back Councilman Kanigo as Citizen Kanigo, and he will be taking over Jim Erikalian's seat. Big place to fill, but I know Councilman Kanigo will give it his utmost. And we wish Jim, as we did previously, well, as he moves on to bigger and better things. Councilman, I'm sorry, Mr. Kanigo, please raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dario Kinigo,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I
and that I
will bear true faith and allegiance
will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the government established
and to the government established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I state your name.
I, Dario Kinigo,
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
as a Class 4-1 member
as a Class 4-1 member
of the Municipal Land Use Board
of the Municipal Land Use Board
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Dario.
Thank you. I missed you all. I'm glad to be back. Let's get
Okay.
started.
Fast U-turn. Okay, let's let the record show Mr. Behrens is here as well, our borough planner. Good evening, sir. Our first item on the agenda now this evening is the approval of minutes for our meeting of the 24th of January. A draft set of the minutes was circulated for the board's review prior to the meeting this evening. I open it to the floor for comments or questions on those minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I reviewed the minutes and I recommend that they be accepted.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions or comments from the board? There being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. We'll just do a voice vote.
We can do a voice vote. Mr. Caslin, and Mr. Keenigo were absent that meeting.
Correct. So with those two exceptions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Thank you, folks. Our next agenda item this evening is under memorializations. The first resolution is for the property at 216 Lozier Terrace, block 1206, lot 17. A resolution granting variance relief. Draft of the resolution was circulated to the board prior to this evening's meeting for review and comment. I open it to the board. For
I did
comment.
have a few edits.
Yes.
They were sent earlier today, but I'll just go over them. On page 4, paragraph 8, there was a typo. Instead of the word sealed in the second to last sentence, it should have been scaled back. And then on page 8, yes. On page 8, paragraph 8, I had to reword the sentence because I referenced a swimming pool, which was from a different application. So the first sentence was changed that the applicant is permitted to construct patios, outdoor kitchen, open air pergola in the rear yard of the property. As described in the plans and renderings submitted in the application, as amended on the record and as set forth in this resolution. And then the second sentence is going to say the variances are expressly conditioned upon the following, and then list all the conditions. So those are the two edits.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments from the board? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes with the edits Ms. Steinley just referenced.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. Is there a second?
Second.
I think I got Mr. Cray on the second.
All right, I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You know what? I apologize. Yes.
okay, this was
Yes.
Lozier.
I'm a yes. Yep.
Okay, Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
The motion passes, and I only called those who were eligible to vote.
Okay. Thank you for that. Our next item under memorializations this evening is for Zhou Ming Wang. Property is 478 Kindermack Road. Resolution granting site plan approval on application for a food handler's license. Draft of the resolution was circulated prior to this evening's meeting. Ms. Steinley, I believe there are a few edits here as well.
Yes, there were on the first 3 pages. So on the first page, in the whereas clause that has the applicant's address, I updated the address based on Mr. Barrett. He gave me the correct address, the attorney for the applicant. It's 143-07 Sanford Avenue, not Central Avenue. Then on the second page, I added under the list of documents submitted by the applicant under number 3 and 4. I added the application number for the prior approval, which was application 2013-03. And then on page 3, paragraph 8, there's a typo. It says interior reservations, but it should say interior renovation. So that was fixed. But if there are any other edits, you can incorporate them.
Any further comments or questions from the board on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we accept them as amended.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merman. Is there a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen.
I'll do a roll call and only call those eligible. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving along in our agenda, we're going to proceed into completeness review. The applicant is Peter and Grace Kim. Property is 536 Monroe Court. This is block 702, lot 12. The proposed one-story addition and patio in the rear yard with non-conforming side yard setback and rear yard setback and non-conforming improved lot coverage seeking variance relief. Ms. Steinle.
Yes, thank you. Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicants and found them to be sufficient for the board to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna turn, I believe Mr. Depkin is handling this one, Mr. Barons, or is that, this is the one you're still handling?
I'll defer to you. I think it's an application we haven't heard previously, and I'm just so used to being ready that it was, I was here.
Mr. Depkin, I'll turn to you. You're on mute.
Sorry, you're on mute, Mr. Dupkin.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I haven't done the review. I'll refer to Mr. Barron's. I don't have the plans on this either.
So I'll chime in then. So the applicant, I did do the zoning letter of denial, and so the application this evening is essentially to replace an existing, we'll call it rear deck and covered porch area with a one-story addition, so enclosing that. And so the application materials that were submitted include a site survey as well as architectural plans depicting the first floor layout and elevations. So it appears that there's enough information for the board to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barons. Mr. Costa?
Mr. Chairman, I concur with Mr. Barons, and I don't know where I like to say councilman, once a mayor, always a mayor, once a councilman, always a councilman. Welcome back.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board on completeness? Okay, there being none, I'll look for a motion to deem this application complete.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kenigo. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Kenigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay. Moving along then into our next item on the agenda this evening is new business. Peter and Grace Kim, property is 536 Monroe Court. This is block 702, lot 12, seeking a proposed one-story addition and patio in the rear yard, non-conforming side yard setback and rear yard setback, and non-conforming improved lot coverage, seeking variance relief. I believe the applicants, I see the applicants are here, and good evening.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, good. Do you have anyone appearing with you, architect or attorney?
No, we don't today.
Okay,
We spoke to the architect. He thought it was simple enough to review on our own.
okay. I'm gonna turn to Ms. Steinle and she'll swear you in.
All right, if you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, and then please state your names, spell your last names, and provide your address for the record.
Peter Kim, last name Kim,
Grace Kim, last name Kim.
address 536 Monroe Court, River
Thank
Edge, New Jersey. Yep.
All right,
Okay, thank you for that. Would you, for the benefit of the board, kindly give us a description of the proposed renovations you're looking to make to your home?
Yep, so with the patio, right now we have a rear deck patio. We're looking to enclose it, the existing space. Again, we're not expanding outside of what's currently there. It's just an outdoor patio that we want to enclose. And also there is going to be another patio to the side of it in the rear yard, looking to just have something there. Just having a little outdoor area in the backyard as well.
All right, so I'm just gonna jump in. I think what would help, and I don't know if Mr. Kim, do you have the availability to share that your plans, or do you have them up, like the PDFs? I can do it if you don't, no pressure.
I don't have the PDF.
All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show the plans, there's two sheets, one at a time, and maybe you could just walk the board through what's going on, and I could chime in as needed. Does that work?
Yeah.
Right, just bear with me while I fire this up real quick. All right. Oh. All right. Okay, we've got everybody. So we have the existing conditions, right? To the left where my cursor is. You can see obviously the deck, which has a pergola above it, and as well as this sort of covered open porch area, which again has a roof. To the right, we have the site layout, which I'll zoom in on so everyone can see. The area in question we're talking about is this hatched area, again, where the covered porches and the deck, and their plan is basically to enclose all of this with a one-story addition, right?
That's
And
correct.
add this patio over here of looks like 108 square feet. And I'm sorry, I'm taking over here. I just it might be more
No,
efficient. Correct me if
right.
I'm wrong. All right. So, and then we have the first floor plan, right? And so again, this is the area in question that's sort of has the hatching or the line weight around it. And so, what is the plan for this area? What do you want to use this area for?
It's just going to be a dining area. We're looking for more space, so it's just going to be a dining area that we enclose.
Okay. And again, because it's a one-story addition, there's no changes to the second floor of the dwelling?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know how many bedrooms about you guys have upstairs?
We have 5 bedrooms upstairs.
Okay. All right. And these are the majority of the change, or these are really the changes that you're seeking, right? Okay.
Right.
And so just to go to the zoning chart, it's indicating that they're looking for 3 variances. So the R1 zone allows a maximum approved lot coverage of 35%. They're showing 38.99% existing and proposed 40.44%. I'm questioning these calculations, and I'll explain because the existing building footprint is 1,744 square feet. The driveway is about 600 square feet, and we're adding 108 square feet. And that gets you to about 32%. And there's some other ancillary coverages. And so, Mr. Kim, maybe you can help us out. Do you know if the architect added these stepping stones as part of the coverage?
He did, yes.
Okay, so that then I would just trust those calculation gets us to the 40%. So again, we're talking about the addition, which is existing coverage, and really adding 108 square feet. But then we have this stepping stone area. Could you describe that area? What are the stepping stones? Are they sitting in dirt? What exactly is going
Yeah,
on?
they're just pavers sitting in dirt right now. So yeah.
All right. You might be able to see. We might be able to see it here. I think the board. There's an image that kind of depicts what this is.
Yes. Yep. That's what they look
And
like.
are you guys proposing those to remain that area?
We are proposing, but if there's an option, if we need to bring the coverage down, we can remove them. If we need to bring it down.
So you're willing that as a condition to remove those if the board sees necessary?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I think, again, based on my rough calculation, that probably brings you guys below 35%, but I think we can confirm that. And then finally, the 2 additional variances pertain to the side yard setback, where 7.5 feet is required. The existing and proposed condition are both 7 feet, as well as the rear yard, proposed is 8.1 feet. And so I'll just note that the site is a corner lot and that the 7 feet is to the property to the south, and the 8 feet, though not labeled, is to the property to the, we'll call it the west, which for them kind of functions like a side yard. So, is there anything else to add? I'll ask Mr. Kim. Did
No,
that summarize it? Okay.
that summarized it. Thank you.
All right. So I'll hand it over to the board if any board members have any questions. I'll stop sharing also.
Okay. All right, thanks, Tom. Why don't I go to Mr. Costa first? If I may.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this today, Tom, or through the chair. Ed sent his calculation. I don't know who prepared them.
Oh,
But
okay.
the deck, or rather the stepping stones, is 441 square
Okay.
feet. So if they come out 441, and I believe the lot is 7452. So that throws you almost 6% reduction, which gets you right around the 35%.
All right, thanks. I did not see that, so thank you for confirming.
No problem.
So if that's the case, I guess the board would be tasked with determining if those stepping stones stay or go. If it's an issue, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then what would be left of the rear and side yard setback variances?
Okay,
And
Correct.
those are both existing conditions, correct?
Well, the side yard would be continued. Again, that's where you have the sort of the open porch. There, it would be a wall there. And then you'd have the deck is half of that addition, which has a pergola on it currently.
Right, no, I meant the side yard setback and the rear yard, they're both existing non-conforming, correct?
More or less just existing in a different state, right? So, right. But the same dimensions, right?
But if I can through the chair, just really quickly, if the way I believe the way the ordinance is written, depending on where the address is, when you have a corner lot, excuse me, you got to pick the address as the front, and then the opposite obviously is the rear, and the other one becomes the side. So if they flipped Concord around as the address, then you would meet the side yard, which it's closer to. Now, I don't remember when that was changed. Maybe Tom, maybe you remember, that might have predated me. It was always like that. But that could be why it is like that.
Yeah, I don't know when the change occurred, but your analysis is accurate. And you know, frankly, a lot of these corner lots are developed the way they are, and so if you want to add anything, you almost necessarily need a variance, and that which doesn't necessarily justify this, but as a matter of fact, a lot of these corner lots don't have a rear yard depth of 25 feet. It's just the reality of that side of town.
Mr. Cray, I'll turn to you. Do you have any further questions?
No, other than just to confirm that the applicant would remove those paving stones to get down to 35%, that would be, I think I'd be in pretty good shape as far as what we're seeing here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Boland?
Same comment, that if the stepping stones aren't going to be missed, it would be great to be able to take them out.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just have I have a question. I'm looking at the plans. I see a family room, I see a dining room. The testimony is that the new space will become the dining room. What's going to happen to the old space, the dining room?
So when we moved in the house back in 2019, we came with one kid. Now we have 3 kids. Just had number 3 in November.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's kind of like the kids' play craft area right now, where they do their homework. So it's kind of been taken over by the kids.
Okay. So you have a living room, you have a family room, you have a craft room, and you're gonna, okay, cool. I just didn't understand it. Yeah, no, I agree with the comments that were made previously, and I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kaneko?
No, I have no real comments. I saw from the picture, it looks like you got a lot of pavers there on the side. you may still need a couple of pavers so that on very rainy days or, wet days, you're able to access your backyard. But it sounds to me like you're removing a lot, or a lot of extra space was accounted for that didn't need to be. So you're really at that 35% threshold. So I've got no problem with what you're doing and wish you good luck.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Gibbons.
No, I don't see any issues with it either. That addition, though it encroaches the back, it does look like from the aerial that it's really encroaching the backyard of your neighbor. So it's not like you're on top of someone else's house by having that, additional house as opposed to the deck. So I don't have any issues with it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Glass.
Hey, Tom, can you share again the survey or the site plan? I've been a
Yeah.
P for 40
Yep.
years, but I'm gonna ask a dumb question.
Bear with me while I get this up. Yes.
Someone's gonna have to tell me if the north arrow is right.
No, it's not.
That's my only comment or question.
It's a valid question. If that architect were here, we could.
Yeah, okay.
But
That's it.
I think I would note if this moves forward that the plan should be revised to correct that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Certainly looks like it's pointing south.
Yeah, I think you got a couple of labeling issues on the second page too. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilman Glass. Mr. Merman.
Yes, North Arrow. I looked at that, and the survey North Arrow is 180 degrees out of whack. Mr. Costa's tax maps and everything are correct, and I would imagine that the surveyor will correct it, his North Arrow if and when necessary. I only have basically one question. The various side yard and rear yard variances I can understand. The improved lot coverage, I'd like to discuss that a little bit. I know some numbers have been kicked around, and I know Mr. Costa's office issued some revised numbers. If we leave the stepping stones there in place, what would be the proposed percentage of lot coverage? I need a number.
Would bring us to 40.44%.
It is the 44.4. If we remove the stepping stones, what would it be?
Should bring us to around 35%.
35.
I did the calculation, it's 34.5% if you remove all 441 square feet.
Okay, so those are the two extremes, the high and the low, or the minimum and the max. So I would ask the board what number would they like to consider? In other words, do you want to remove all the stepping stones or a part of the stepping stones? All right, I'll ask.
Let me ask this, Mr. Kim, Mrs. Kim, does it get very wet there on the side? Do you need the stepping stones to get into the back? How much do you use the side yard? Because we would prefer that you remove everything. I think I speak for everybody when we say, we want as much, the ability for the ground to absorb as much water as possible. But if you have a need for it, tell us. This way we understand what your position is.
Yeah, well, for the rear, we don't use that space at all. It's pretty much dead space. For the side, there's a portion where we do put our garbage cans. That's pretty much all. Space for 2 garbage cans is all we really need there. So
Mr. Merman, would you be okay if we put language just not to exceed 35%?
Yes, I'd be okay. I'd be fine. I'll give Mr. Kim the last chance. Could you live with that?
Yes, can live with that.
Okay, so 35 is the number. Okay. That's my only comments. And when the board is, well, you gotta go to public.
We have to go to the public, yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Merman. I have the same thoughts that you've already heard, so no sense going through that again. At this time, I will, no further questions from the board. I'll entertain a motion to open to the public on this application.
Been open to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, at this time, we are now open to the public for comments on this application only. Again, this is the application for the Kim property, 536 Monroe Court. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard on this application alone?
I don't see anyone. You can raise your hand on Zoom or press *9 on your telephone if you're calling in. It looks like everyone's on Zoom. If you're interested in commenting, raise your hand now. Nope, doesn't look like
Okay.
anyone.
All right, we'll take that as a no comment from the public. At this time, I'll look for a motion, please, to close to the public.
So moved?
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Is there a second?
Second.
I think I got a second from Mr. Cray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, we are now closed to the public on comments on this application. Any additional questions or comments from the board at this time on? All right,
I just, hey, Chairman Kazan, just, it's a formality, and it seems like sometimes it goes unstated. The applicant's agreeing to remove the stepping stones. Just to state the obvious for the record, what would be in place of the stepping stones? I just want to get that on, make it clear that it's not going to be another impermeable surface, stating the obvious. But could you please just, so we have it on the record?
Yeah, right now if we remove the stepping stones, it's just gonna be mud and grass. We really don't use that area anyways, so it's just gonna be try to grow grass on it if anything.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. All right, if there's no further comments, I will look to the board for a motion on the application, please.
I'll be glad to offer one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman.
Okay, regarding the Grace and Peter Kim residence, 536 Monroe Court, River Edge, block 702, lot 12. I'll make a motion that the land use board, I'll make a motion that the land use board grant a side yard setback where 7.5 is required and the existing is 7. Likewise, the rear yard is required 25 feet. The existing is 8.1 feet, and that should be noted as an existing variance, and we're recognizing and legalizing that. When we get to minimum lot coverage, that's fine. There's no variance required there. Regarding improved lot coverage, the ordinance requires 35 feet, 35%. Existing is 38.99, and the applicant proposes to remove stepping stones so as not to exceed a 35% coverage, which therefore would mean no variance required, if I read this correctly. And that's it.
Okay, do we want to also include Councilman's recommendation that with the stones removed, that just not be substituted with anything impervious?
Correct, yes, accepted.
Okay.
And
Second.
that the applicant will provide the revised plans with the correct arrow.
Yeah, and then the usual boilerplate comments for Mr. Costa regarding soil movement and so on.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kanigo. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Kesslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes,
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes, yes,
Mr. Kanigo,
Yes.
Councilman Glass,
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
All right, great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
That- Best of luck with your project.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. All right. Moving along in our agenda, the next item is old business. First item there is Jenny Castaneda Tam. Property is 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25. This has been this is an application that was carried from a prior meeting of January 10th. This application, I believe, is now being carried to the meeting of the board on February 28th, 2024. Ms. Steinle?
Yes, thank you. The application for Castaneda Tam, 429 Windsor Road, block 809, lot 25 will be carried to the Land Use Board meeting on February 28th, 2024. If you're here to comment on that application, it won't be heard tonight. It'll be carried to the February 28th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next item under old business is Banks and Dolan. Property is 126 Adams Avenue, block 612, lot 13. Application to construct additions to an existing dwelling and associated site improvements. I believe the applicant is here. Good evening. I believe I see Mr. Callahan, the architect, and Mr. McClellan, the engineer. Ms. Steinle?
Yes, so just some background information. This application appeared before the board at the meeting on January 24th and was carried on the record to a meeting at the end of March. The applicants requested that the application be scheduled to a sooner to tonight's meeting, and they renoticed. I reviewed the proofs that they submitted and found them to be sufficient for the board to continue hearing the application tonight.
Okay, thank you very much.
And the applicants did submit revised plans that were distributed to the board members.
Okay. Thank you for that. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We'll turn the floor to you. If you could give us an update on the changes to plans that you submitted, please.
Yes, I'll turn it over to Mr. Callahan very briefly, but we made some modifications. We heard the board's feedback at the last meeting loud and clear, and we made some modifications, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Callahan to go over those.
Okay, thank you.
And just to reiterate, all of the witnesses tonight were previously sworn and will continue to be under oath today.
Understood.
Great.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Do I need to be made a co-host or something?
No, I think you should be able to, there's a green button at the bottom. If not,
Okay, I got it now. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm referencing plans that are dated January 30th, 2024. Are the revised floor plans. I also have a revision bubble around everything that was changed. And on the A1 sheet, I included a little summary of the revisions. And I'm glad to go over that with you now. One of the things that we did was we moved the two-car garage addition. We pulled it in and increased our side yard setback.
And we also pulled it away from the street more to reduce or eliminate one of the variances, which was a front yard setback for that garage structure. So now that is now conforming at 30 feet. Our previous side yard setback, our previous application, we were requesting a side yard setback of 9.5 feet. And it is now 13 feet to that garage from the side yard. That also increased the combined side yard setbacks from 13.6 to 17.1. We need 18 feet for the combined side yards, so we're looking for 0.9 feet of relief for the combined side yard variance. We also reduced the covered porch, the covered entry to, well, what is a conforming size for 5 by 7, 35 square feet. It's still, by the nature of given where it still is encroaching into the front yard setback. But that was another revision where we reduced the size of that area. We also, at the suggestion of the board, added a patio in the back. And because of the flow of the house and everything, we had double doors out to a platform in the backyard previously. And we thought, rather than introduce more hardscape, the sort of the flow to the patio would be kind of through the mudroom here. So we eliminated a platform and steps that were previously in the rear yard. And we also brought in the first floor addition 2 feet so that the kitchen and island area was reduced 2 feet. We kept the second floor master suite above where it was on the previous application. That kind of summarizes the changes. Any dimensions and numbers that were changed are again have a cloud around them. And I think maybe I'll hand it over to Mr. McClellan, who can maybe speak about some of the coverages and some of the other engineering issues.
Sure.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey,
Let me just share my screen. Everybody can see that.
Yeah.
So just to kind of reiterate what Mr. Callahan talked about is last time we were in front of you, the setback here for the garage was 9.5 feet. And now we pulled that in to 13.0 feet. And, you know, that gives us a combined yard side setback variance of 17.1, where 18 is required. But I just want to point out that that's only for this section here, where the existing house is 4.1. So that 4.1 combined with the 13 is 17.1. All of our improvements are well within the setbacks. We have 13 feet on the left side. We have 12.4 feet where our addition is on the right for a combined of 25.4. So we're well within all the setbacks. The only thing that puts us on that combined side yard setback is just this little small piece here, which is about 14 feet. That's existing. Last time we were in front of you, we had a building coverage of 28.9%. And with what Mr. Callahan showed you were reduced, we got that down to 27.5%. I just want to point out that, you know, this 2 foot overhang here, which is 52 square feet, we're counting that in our coverage, where, you know, below that is a grassed area. So we count it as coverage, but the area covered by this second story cantilever, you know, it will be grass on the underside of that. The impervious coverage last time we were here was 39.7%, and we got that down to 38.4%. As I mentioned last time, We're removing this existing detached garage that's 2.9 feet off the rear yard, which is non-conforming. It's supposed to be 4.0 feet. So, the removal of this garage will remove that existing non-conformity. As far as I know, there's drainage concerns. And I'll just wait for questions, but we are providing, the impervious coverage, we're only increasing it by 254 square feet over what currently exists. And that's including this 52 square feet that we count in the coverage that's grass. And we're providing drainage for the additions in their entirety. So we are definitely making the situation at the site much better in terms of runoff. I'll leave it at that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCullough. Mr. Behrens.
Sure. Good evening. Just to get, I guess, the full picture, can someone confirm, did the driveway width also get reduced?
It did. The proposed driveway width is 20 feet. I believe we were at 22 last time. So the coverage on the driveway is down to 596, which is much less than what the existing driveway is, 811 square feet.
And again, just to be clear, so the proposed is 20 feet wide. That's proposed.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Could you, Mr. McClellan, just go back up to the zoning chart? I just, we talked about a number of variances. I just want to reiterate what the current list of variances is. I know you guys mentioned them, but just in order, if we could just tick them off real quick. So we have, I'll let you do it if you don't mind.
Sure. So the side yard combined is 17.1, where 18 feet is required. The lot coverage is 27.5%, where 25 is required. And the improved lot coverage is 38.4%, where 35% is required.
Okay, thank you. And this might be a question for the architect, I guess. And thank you for that. I guess the question just pertains to the floor plan, making sure the garage dimensions are, adequate. I think it has a depth of now 19 feet. I don't have the plan in front of me, but it has a width of perhaps 21 interior feet. And maybe someone could just finally answer, what's the decision to keep the cantilever on the second floor versus bumping the whole thing in? Obviously, it's to, maintain the space in the master, but is there, I guess, some other reason or some other explanation? Because I think the board last time had, talked about, looking to maximize any reductions in coverage. Maybe the board's okay at this point with what's already been done, but again, just if someone can maybe explain.
Sure. So, we pulled the first floor in the 2 feet. We left the cantilever. As far as why we need that space up there, I can let Mr. Callahan answer it. But we were trying to eliminate some more coverage. I read through the code, and I kind of determined after it was designed that we had to include that 52 square feet, even though it was an overhang. So, originally was designed to try and bump that 52 square feet off the coverage, even though that area is grass or will be grass. It is an overhang, and the way I interpret the code was that would count towards the coverage.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Behrens. Mr. Costa.
Think I'm there now. All right, just if I can get this straight in my head. So according to the architect, I think the driveway is 20.5 feet. Because it's 16, 2.3, and 2.3. So maybe just clarify that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then obviously everything has to line up, coming out of the kitchen into the mudroom, back to the patio. I understand all of that. But why would you why wouldn't you put that on the back of the house right off the kitchen, just out of curiosity? Which,
Privacy with the neighbors and also sort of, that seemed to be a nicer space for them to,
okay,
that's all, yeah.
all right, so privacy reasons, got it. And then basically going over the variances again, and I think Tom addressed this. So the existing setback is 4.1 feet. And then using that number, 4.1 plus the 13, 17.1. But if you add up the basically the new where you put everything, it's 13 plus the 12.4, so 25.4. Where 18 is required, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as in order to reduce this just slightly more, can you, because I'm looking at it, maybe you can't do it. You can't shift this, other than getting it that the board would have to grant relief. Could you shift the garage closer to the street to eliminate more square footage on impervious or no?
No, it's the second floor.
One of the thoughts behind that was there is a little bit of a slope there in the front yard. And we were trying to get to the point where a car that's parked on the driveway is a little more level than if it were closer to the street.
Okay.
The other point on that is if you move it forward, then that becomes it becomes part of the doesn't comply with the code as far as.
No, I understand it. You would need it, right, you would need a
So,
variance.
and I think some of the complaints from the neighbors include front yard setback complaints. So I think that's part of it as well.
Okay, understood. Right now you're at 20.7. And then if you went to, maybe you'd have to be a little bit deeper than 20.7 just to have it work out. But if you went to 25, you would pick up another 5 times 20, right? I don't know if that really makes sense. But you would reduce it slightly more, that's all. Other than that, as far as the drainage, very quickly, I read some of the letters that Ed sent this afternoon, talked about drainage. Again, they'll have to do some soil testing to make sure that the soil can drain. But basically, we require dead storage. So whatever they're doing with a 3-inch storm, which is a 100-year storm, they need to meet that under dead storage requirements, not under so they don't use percolation to compensate for any water that's coming in. That just needs to drain out if you use the DEP rules within 72 hours. So basically, if a storm comes in, it stays in the seepage pit in the stone, it voids in the stone, and then it should be evacuated within 72 hours. And that's what you got to prove. They're still proposing a 1,000-gallon pit. Anywhere in this town, I don't think we have 1,000-gallon pit in the entire town. Everything's either 500 shallower to keep it up top. And that's what we require in this case. And then
Yes, I
obviously,
saw your recommendation in your letter, and we're going to do the percolation test, but regardless, we'll change that 1,000-gallon seepage pit to 2 500-gallon seepage pits.
I'm not even giving you the answers, and you're getting them right. That's beautiful. And then the only other thing is, again, some of the neighbors, I think they're on the corners. Possibly, you might need a swale or something to make sure that the water gets to either the seepage pits or put in some sort of a drain if required to get back to the seepage pits and ultimately as an overflow to the street, so it doesn't impact any of the adjoining properties. Is that okay?
And we can comply with that.
Okay. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that would be it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costa.
No problem.
Let me turn now to the board for questions and comments. Ms. Boland, start with you, please.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gibbons.
Just to clarify, so I know what we moved down from. What was the impervious coverage before? Not currently, but what was proposed the last time we all met?
39.7.
Okay, so we went down a percent by subtracting a little bit on the kitchen, subtracting a little bit left on the garage, and then we were still able to add the patio. Is that
Correct.
Yeah,
generally?
so we
what-
went from 39.7% to 38.4% by the reductions in the house and and the driveway, and we also, and that included it. And we add the patio. So with those subtractions, that addition, we're still able to come down 1.3%.
And we
Okay.
reduced the size of the front porch as well.
Correct. Okay. I just wanted to just make sure I understood what was reduced from last time.
Right.
You know, I appreciate you, making those efforts to get within what we asked. You know, and it's good that you do have the the backyard amenity, which you may not need, but I think as the mayor pointed out last time, future generations are looking for backyard spaces. So, personally, I think you did a good job reducing and meeting our needs. So I have no questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to echo what Mr. Gibbons said. Thank you for the work that you did and for adding the patio so that future generations would be coming back to the land use board asking for the patio. So thank you for the citizens and thank you for the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Glass.
Thank you. I like the new garage door, guys. It looks great. I have a question for Mr. Costa. I thought I saw in your recommendations a caveat about depth to groundwater when the stormwater detention pit is being put in.
Correct.
What was it? If they encounter groundwater or if they're within?
Basically, the new rules, if, so to speak, if this was a major development, under the new DEP guidelines or rules, you need to be 2 feet above the high water table.
Okay, here's my question. How are they gonna know if they're 2 feet above?
When you take a test pit, so when they do a soil test.
Okay.
The soil, the condition of the soil can tell you there's something called modeling. You'll see evidence of groundwater possibly based on that. And if they're gonna do it, they're coming into the right time of year to tell you where the high water table is.
So we're gonna require them to test pit at least 2 feet below the planned bottom elevation of the pit?
Correct.
Okay, and then I believe you said if groundwater is encountered at less than 2 feet above that elevation, changes will be necessary. What would those changes be?
There's
Are the-
there's different chambers out there now. If anybody goes up and down Route 17, if you go past Progressive Brick, you'll see these yellow plastic, they look like dog houses almost. So the typical one is, I think it's a 720, maybe Eileen can help me. I think it's a SC 720. They make a shorter version, which is the 310. So they get that, basically the depth of them becomes smaller. You could come in if you, almost like a septic field if you had to, if the groundwater table is so high. You could almost put down a stone bed with perforated pipe. If it's that's pretty much the top. After that, you better put in pilings and then you're probably in Venice, Italy. So, I mean, that's.
Okay. I just want to understand that there is a feasible alternative. Thank you.
Absolutely, 1000%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Kanigo.
Thank you. I earlier today I watched the entire video. I became familiar with everything. I read every piece of paper that was submitted. And I want to say, subject to whatever the neighbors are going to say, what I saw was that you met everything or pretty much everything that this board asked of you. So we appreciate the work that you did, and I recognize all the changes that you made. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Craig.
Yeah, we're sounding repetitive. What board members have said. I think we were all a little aghast with your submission, so if you've made changes as you did and incorporate the patio.
Hey, Mike,
At our request.
Mike, we're getting a lot of feedback from you.
Again?
Yeah.
Hold on. Is that any better?
Marginally. Try again.
No.
No, it's still there. There's an echo.
Is it Still happening?
It's a little better, but it's
Do you have a new camera or somehow like two microphones somehow possibly going?
No, I was on the hockey but
I ask and then I can't hear you.
Because I use it all day long work. And I never have a problem.
hey, Mike, I'm gonna maybe suggest maybe log off and try to log back on.
You got it. I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
Well, very quickly, I just say I approve of the efforts, and appreciate them.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
And I'm gonna log back in.
Okay. Mr. Merman.
Yes, I agree with the mayor that this applicant should be highly commended for working with the board's prior comments, and I think they did a good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right. Any further questions from the board before we open to the public?
I'll motion to move to open to the public.
I will take a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? At this time, we're now open for public comment on this application alone. Again, the application is Banks and Dolan. The property is 126 Adams Avenue, Block 612, Lot 13. If you're in the audience and wish to be heard, please press the raise hand button on Zoom.
All right, we do have someone already. I'll allow you to talk. Marnie Becker, please state your name and address for the record, and then you can make your public comment.
Sure, Marnie Becker, Marni Becker, and I'm at 125 Tenny Ave.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening.
Hi. I am the property that I guess on the layout is the lot number 2. The bank's property is right back of my property. My concerns are a couple of things. Just how close to the property line does the building go? Secondly, I do have a sight line towards the side of my yard to Adams Avenue. Will that now be completely blocked? And then I'm just really curious about the 2 pine trees that are there. And with all the work that will be done on the property, if you'll be removing the pine trees, because I'm just kind of curious if there's bad weather and everything, if those trees can come down.
May I answer that question?
Oh,
so first of all, we don't have 2 pine trees. We have 1 pine tree.
Oh.
And one side of that pine tree is actually dead. So the pine tree, we actually had somebody out, a professional, to look at the tree. The tree is dead, and the tree, for safety reasons, has got to be removed. That's the only pine tree that's on the property.
Oh.
Other tree that's close to your fence at the back, it's not a pine tree, and that tree will not be removed. And just for the record, since Jim and I moved into that house in 2015, we have actually planted 7 trees around our house. So we're very pro tree. We're not into just cutting down trees.
Well, I think if you look at my yard, I think I've got like 10. So I completely understand that, and I'm glad that someone's been out to take care of the tree, but just addressing my other 2 concerns regarding how far back the property goes to the fence and sight lines.
Sure, I can answer that. So the existing garage is only 2.9 feet from your property line. That's going to be removed. The addition is going to be 29.9 feet from your property line, where 25 feet is required. So we'll be well within the allowable limits. As far as your sight distance from your house to Adams, I can't answer that, but there is 13 feet between the side yard and the proposed addition, where only 8 feet is required. So if you, depending on where your windows are, there's 13 feet between the house and the property line, which is more than is required.
Okay.
All right, if
Oh,
you have any other questions,
yeah.
now will be the chance.
Oh, the only other thing which I just don't understand, what's the drainage thing about?
So, the property does not have any drainage. The water that falls in the driveway, the garage, the porches, the patios, just runs off the property. We're going to collect all the water from our proposed additions and put it into what I show as a 1,000 gallon seepage pit. Based on the engineer's recommendation, we're going to change that to 2 500-gallon seepage pits. So that collects the water, and the water permeates into the ground from there, reducing the overall runoff off the property.
Okay, is this considered gray water?
This is roof water is what falls from the sky when it rains. It runs off your roof and goes down the gutters into seepage pits. It's considered clean water.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Becker. I'm Marnie Becker's sister. I also live at
All
the
right.
property.
Okay. And your address is 125 Tenny Ave?
Correct.
Okay. All right, you can state your comments or questions.
Also regarding the seepage pit, is this going to be used as another form of watering plants? The way some people collect the water off their roofs and whatnot? Or is this just something that will eventually percolate out and become runoff into the street?
So it is designed to catch all the water from the roof of the additions and percolate completely into the ground. And we actually designed it with a factor of safety. For this size addition, using a 3-inch rainfall event, which is the River Edge code, requires 2,156 gallons of capacity, and we are providing 3,030 gallons. So we have about a 45% margin of safety as well. So it just collects the water, and that water percolates into the ground. There won't be any overflow for the 3-inch storm.
There's no chance that it will back up into our backyard then?
No, it's not designed to. We do get storms that do exceed the 3-inch storm. If it does, it would overflow towards the street. Just looking at your property is about 160 feet deep, and your house is more towards the Tenny Avenue side.
What's he saying?
There's a large distance between where the seepage pit's going to be and where your house will be.
No,
So there'll be no negative impact towards your property.
No, we weren't concerned specifically about it running into the house. We were just concerned about the end of the yard becoming a mud pit if it does overflow.
Right. So if it does overflow, it'll go towards the street, not towards
Okay.
the rear.
That's what we wanted to find out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
All right.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to be heard on this application?
There are other members of the public present. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand now. All right. And I'll just ask that you unmute and then state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Say your name and your address.
Oh, okay.
You're on, you have to mute your other. I'm sorry, you have to mute your other account. It looks like you have 2 accounts on Zoom. So you have to mute your other one so you'll be able to talk. All right.
Hello?
Yes, so please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
My name is Hidekazu Kiyono. I reside at 678 Bogart Road, River.
And you're okay. And you submitted a written comment earlier as well?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes. Do you have a question? You can ask
can I
ask
ask
your
a
question or
question?
make your comment. Yes.
Yeah, it's a kind of similar. My concern is about the stormwater because extended to garage may block the water passage, especially any rainfall, because rainfall can possibly come down from north side properties. Teeny Avenue. There are two properties, I think behind Mr. Bank. And those runoff water going through over the grass or seep through under the ground and coming down between his house and my property and my neighbor, Phyllis, Vincent. So if addition is extended for the west side, well, I kind of feel it's a kind of blocking, like a dam, and the civil engineer explained that stormwater control pit gonna seep water out gradually into the ground, but in case there's a big storm, major storm, like 100-year storm, or so many days consecutive rainy days. If pit cannot overtake the excessive amount of water, it can, push the water towards my property and the basement. So another question is, from the stormwater control pit, is the engineer considering hooking up some kind of culvert pipe or something to discharge water to town sewer in case pit doesn't work, fail, cannot take water?
So I'll just ask that you ask all of your questions at once, and then we'll have the response, okay? So
And one more thing related to this. In case, the background gets so saturated, wet, Mr. Bank has a large, what you call spruce tree or Christmas tree, which is 50 feet high. And also, I have a very tall pine tree, 50 feet. I'm wondering how far from the pit. And in case ground gets so saturated, trees roots foundation can get very weak and subject to fall. There's a 1%, 2% risk. And it can fall anywhere 360 degrees, So is that spruce trees going to be cut or removed, first of all? That is another question.
So may I answer that? I think we just.
Well, hold on,
discussed
hold on,
that with-
hold your responses, please. Is that your final question? Do you have any? We'd like to get all your questions on out first, and then we'll have the applicant and their professionals respond.
Hello. Did architect engineer study? Did a shade study? Shade study. And
Like
shade study. Shade.
and shadow.
Yeah, shadow, yeah. And also, I want to see landscaping plan, whether, big pine trees going to be removed or, impact to my tall tree, pine tree. How many feet away from the pit? If pit doesn't work, the ground going to be saturated. And, trees going to, very, trees, roots going to be very weak and might fall. It's dangerous. And by the way, this is all my question. I just want to, engineer to make sure everything is going to be done properly. And since my neighbor, Phyllis Vincent, is sitting right next to me. She's 90 years old. She cannot use computer, so she's sharing my computer.
Yes, I am sharing.
Yeah.
Yes, my concern is.
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Unlike.
Hold on, please state your full name and your address, please, for the
My
record.
name is Phyllis Besson. I live at 674 Bogart Road, River Edge.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. My major concern is drainage. I know that a lot of people on the block on Adams Avenue have water in their basement from time to time when there's a lot of water, rainfall, etc. I don't know where the water is going to go from that pit. Is it going to be piped out to the street? I have the sewer right on my corner. I really would not like to have water in the basement or anywhere else on the property. So is that going to be addressed when it's built?
I'm sorry, so just provide all of your comments or questions now and we'll have the applicant and their experts explain the answers, okay?
Well, that's my major question, okay? That's it, that's it.
All right.
Okay.
May I answer a question, please, with regard to the pine tree,
Sure.
the Christmas tree? So this question was actually already addressed and answered with Miss Becker. So that tree is dead on one side. That tree has got to be removed. It's dangerous. It's dead. The tree is coming down, whether we do the addition or the renovation or we don't, that tree has got to come down.
Okay. And we'll let your architects and engineer respond accordingly to the other items that were raised.
Sure, I can address them. So, the typical rule of thumb for seepage pits is, you want to be at least 10 feet from your house and 10 feet from the property line. That's where we're putting them. We're basically putting them where the old garage used to be. As far as the neighboring properties, let me just reshare my screen again. So I guess lot 2, which I addressed, and I feel like they're satisfied now. And then it looks like lot 14 and lot 15 here are concerned. And it's not like we're not putting our seepage pits 10 feet off the property line, and then their house is right here, and then their house is 7.5 feet off the property line. And there's only 17.5 feet from our seepage pits to the basement. If you look at their lots, I already explained about lot 2. There's 165 feet deep, and these lots are about 125 feet deep, with the houses towards the front. So the distance from our seepage pits to their houses, I just did it on Google Earth, is approximately 80 feet. So these seepage pits are going to have zero effect on any water in their basements. As far as the question about the garage blocking, our setback is 13 feet. It's only required to be 7.5. And we will have a swale between the property line and the garage. So, if there ever is an overflow from one of the roof leaders from a really bad storm, the water will flow between the property line and the garage and go to the street. And just to summarize, the current property is 35% impervious, has zero drainage. So when it rains, all the water comes off the roofs, the patios, the driveways, the garage, and just flows off the property. By instituting the seepage pits for these additions, the overall stormwater is going to be less in post-construction than it will in pre-construction. I hope that answers all the questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard on this application? Hit the raise hand button or.
Doesn't look like it. This
Okay.
is the last call.
This is. Okay.
Nobody else.
All right, thank you. At this time, I will look for a motion to close to the public for comments.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Ms. Boland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? There being none, we're now closed to the public for comment on this application. Any further questions or comments from the board? Okay, at this time, I will look for a motion on the application, please.
Mr. Chairman, may I offer a motion?
Please proceed, Mr. Merman.
Okay, regarding the Banks and Dolan residence at 126 Adams Avenue, River Edge, block 612, lot 13. As far as variances, I recommend that the land use board consider for approval the following variances and conditions. That the front yard setback 30 feet being required, the existing is 20.7 feet, and the applicant is proposing 15.7 feet, which would be at the front porch. Regarding side yard setbacks, minimum required is 7.5 feet. We do note that there is an existing 4.1 feet that will remain, and that would require a variance, an existing variance. Likewise, the other side yard setbacks, again, still has a minimum required 7.5, and the existing on the west side currently is 33.5. The proposed would be 13.0, which meets the ordinance. Regarding combined side yards, the required combined side yards are 18 feet minimum. The proposed would be 17.1, and that's due to the 4.1 foot variance, and it is recognized that that would only exist for a small portion of the dwelling. Lot coverage. Regarding lot coverage, 25% being required, 18.3 is existing, and the new proposed condition, I believe, is 27.5%. Improved lot coverage. Required is 35%, existing is 35%, and the proposed is 38.4%, which is a result of the revised plans and the efforts of the applicant. Likewise, the conditional approval would be that the applicant conform to Mr. Costa's engineering comments, particularly those relating to water and soil movement. I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merman. Is there a second?
second, oops.
Okay, Ms. Boland, thank you. Ms. Steinle, when you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
I abstain.
Ms. Boland,
Yes,
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman, Mr. Kanigo.
Yes.
It's a habit I'll have to break. Councilman Glass
Yes.
and Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Congratulations.
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 Thank you
Thank you,
very much,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You too.
At this time, we have reached the end of our agenda. If there are any further questions, comments on the board, I do have one thing, Tom, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you've got any updates on
Annual report.
annual report.
I can confirm that the board will have it in your hands prior to the next meeting,
Okay,
the annual report.
great. All right. Anything further from the board?
Mr. Caslin,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering, what is our status on the proposed language that, that I offered? I thought we were going to have a special meeting or looking to have a special meeting to discuss that language.
Yes, we were going to, and I actually stopped in to see Ed on Friday, and I missed him before he had left to get that on the agenda. So,
All right. Just want to make sure that we get to that soon.
okay.
I believe at the next meeting, we have one application and an ordinance review. Ed, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but the ordinance review would be the cannabis ordinance.
Okay.
Just to clarify that for the public record, that's only if the council wishes to move ahead with that. We are holding that space in case the council chooses to do so. And to clarify that further for the public, the council will discuss whether it wishes to open an ordinance for that. And if the council does at the meeting that is coming up, then at the following meeting, it would be moved for a first reading. And if that happens, then the space that the land use board is holding open in its agenda would be the review. And then if the land use board finds that it's acceptable according to the master plan, then and only then would it return to the council for a second reading. So just for the public's edification on that.
Okay.
That'd be
So possibly at the next meeting, we could discuss changes to the land use ordinance.
Yeah, we have enough time on the agenda to do that.
Is that in relation to conversations we've had over the past couple of years about the lot coverages and pools and things like that? Is that where we're going with that? Okay.
Yeah, we're looking to have. I think what happened was we had one or two meetings to discuss those topics, and I think due to a variety of applications that took our time away from those exercises and those reviews, we need to pick them back up again. I know both Mr. Merman and I had spoken with Mr. Behrens about dusting those things off, and I think he's going to be working on that. So once he's in a position to circulate something, we can get an email out to look to schedule a working session to have to further those conversations.
Yeah, we've been talking about those things for a couple of years now, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can get that going.
Yeah, I think with Dunkin' Donuts and Johnson Avenue last year, I think
I'm not saying anyone's not doing, just that we can get it going. I'm not throwing anyone under any buses.
No,
just
no.
that we can get that going.
No.
So,
Nor am I. I mean, the
No.
work the count this body did with the Dunkin' Donuts and with so many other D variances and difficult regular variances, it's done extraordinary work. The town and the council and I myself as mayor am very grateful for this body's diligence, professionalism always.
But we have not forgotten about them. They are on the list, and we will pick those conversations back up.
And by the way, 335 Johnson Avenue is coming back for another variance. We'll have to deal with Dock Star again.
Okay.
alrighty.
Anything else from the board?
I have Chairman Kazan, I have a quick question.
Councilman Glass.
Ed's doing an awesome job, thank you, of getting submittals to us and information from applicants and comments that we've received from people in the borough. My question, however, is, does the board have a deadline for submittals of applications or other types of documentation prior to meetings? What's the timeline? Because I'm asking Chairman Kazan, because frequently I get a barrage of emails the day of our meetings. And I'm wondering if applicants and other folks are required to submit any types of documentation a certain number of days before our meetings to give us ample time for review.
So I'm gonna ask Ms. Steinle to address that. I imagine there's directions given as to application materials versus comments from the public, so I'll look to you for that.
Yes, so applicants, when we have our initial public hearing on an application, all the documents that they're relying on to present their application, we require them to be submitted 10 days before the public hearing. At times, applicants will submit things shortly before the meeting that they're going to present as exhibits, which we permit them to present exhibits at the meeting. But they sometimes will send them ahead of time to Ed just so the board can have them before the meeting actually starts. So that sometimes occurs, and then we do accept written public comments for the remote public meetings up to 8 hours before the public hearing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? All right. This time I'll look for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
I think
I'll
we have
second.
Mr. Cray and Mr. Gibbons on a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? All right, we stand adjourned at 9:03 p.m.
Good
Thank
night,
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Not everyone.
Have a great night.
Good night.